One of the videos that I always like to talk about is the size comparison of the Xeno series. What can I say? I'm proud of it. And with that video and its predecessor, there's always one thing being mentioned in the comments all the time. And that's the size of the Bionis and Mechonis. There just ain't no way that those titans are only 13 kilometers in size. After all, Takahashi stated in an interview back then, before the game would be released in Japan, that the Bionis is the size of Japan. At least according to the comments. But is that so? Is that what he really said? The claim that the Bionis is the size of Japan comes from the Iwata Asks interview series, in this case Volume 3, The Development Process, published on May 19, 2010. During the interview, Tetsuya Takahashi stated that the total surface area of the two titans was designed to be roughly equivalent to the Japanese archipelago. That, by the way, is slightly more than 3,000 kilometers. To achieve this sense of scale, the development team researched how long it would take to walk across Japan and used that data to calibrate the travel time between in-game regions. Takahashi clarified that the team implemented a 1% rule, where only approximately 1% of the total surface area of the Titans is actually walkable. The remaining 99% exists as non-playable vertical space or just background scenery, to maintain the illusion of a continent-sized world without making the game impossible to navigate. But realistically, does it make sense? Because yeah, sure, we don't explore most of the Bionis, that's true. But I think when people say that it's obviously 3,000 kilometers, since that's what apparently Takahashi said, they don't realize how big 3,000 kilometers actually is. The biggest mountain on our planet Earth is Mount Everest with 8,800 meters. That's almost 9 kilometers. The highest mountain in the entire solar system is Olympus Mons, a massive volcano located on Mars, with it being 21 kilometers in size. 3,000 kilometers is pretty much the size of the moon. And yes, the Xeno series usually had pretty big things like spaceships, them being multiple 100 kilometers in size. This isn't really something new, but you also don't have to travel around the entire ship. Let's just say, hypothetically, since you're starting at the Bionis' ankle, then getting up to the head and down to the arm again, let's just say you are traveling 3,000 kilometers. Although it's probably even more, considering you're traveling, like I said, up and down, maybe also on its wings, around Arid Sea a few times. It's not just a straight line up and down. But sure, for the sake of this video, let's say 3,000 kilometers of travel. Let's also say that they have inhuman stamina and they jog the entire distance. No sweat. Let's say you're jogging at the speed of 8 kilometers per hour, which is the average speed. I don't know what it would be in miles. You American folks can look it up yourself. You are the one with the special measurements here. Definitely not slow by any means though. If you would jog at that speed, it would take you almost 16 days to get to your destination, not including sleeping, eating, taking breaks, fighting enemies, staying at locations, talking to characters and such, taking detours, whatever. If we say that we sleep 8 hours in a day, right, in a 24-hour day, and no, there is no in-universe change where the game lasts for 48 hours or something, or that the clock moves faster, meaning time is really flying in this universe. Zanza just copy-pasted physics into his pocket dimension. That's all he did. He may have created unique things like cat girls and bird girls, but that's just him living out his fantasy, making his dreams come true. And to be quite honest, you can't judge him for that. Let's say 8 hours of sleep, 2 hours of eating food, toilet time and breaks in general per day. And we just log in and jog for 14 hours a day at a jogging speed of 8 kilometers per hour. where you would cover 112 kilometers per day. And to complete 3,000 kilometers, it would take approximately 27 days of consistent jogging. And actually, let's add 2 more hours of fighting enemies per day. There are a lot of monsters after all. Now you would need 31 days and jog for 12 hours a day. But even then, you would need to double the time because you're traveling across the sword, which has an insane length. Even just at half the length that we're traveling on, it would, if we just say, if it would be 3,000 kilometers again, right? Take you 62 days to get to Galahad Fortress. Then you drop down 1,500 kilometers, survive somehow, and decide to travel up the Mechonis. Another roughly 3,000 kilometers, which would mean that you're traveling for more than 3 months. If you jog the entire distance, by the way, with only a few breaks in between to cook, eat food, go to the toilet, and sleep, of course, the entire game of Xenoblade Chronicles would take multiple months, and if we are reasonable and think that they obviously didn't jog throughout the entire game, yes, the events must have played out over the course of at least half a year. I'm not exactly convinced that this is true. 3,000 kilometers doesn't make much sense. At 13 kilometers, the Bionis is roughly 1.5 times the size of Mount Everest. With 8 kilometers per hour, you would need almost 1.5 hours if you jog the entire distance. And once again, this is just if you go in a straight line, just the verticality itself. As I mentioned before, you run in circles, you go up and down, left and right. You also need to travel back, right? Did you consider that? You have to go back to the gem man to create gems and help out residents and do other things. Important stuff. Looking at the story and how many nights really pass in the story, how many enemies we fight and how just things progress, this is significantly more reasonable than saying that the Bionis is 3,000 kilometers in size. I'm just saying. Anyways, that's it. Like the video, dislike the video if you hate it being fact-checked, I don't know. Thanks for watching, see you soon folks, have a good one.